Hello everyone. I want to welcome you to this informational session on exemptions and tax credits that are available to certain people who own property in Shrewsbury. I'm Ruth Anderson. I'm the principal assessor here. This is Greg Hamilton. He's the assistant assessor. Greg and I are both new to Shrewsbury. I started here in May. Greg started in August.
Yes.
So we're excited to bring you some information on programs that you might not know is available to you. So what's an exemption? We're going to start with exemptions. So what is it? It's a credit that's available by law. So we call them statutory exemptions. That just means it's in the statute. It's in the law. It means we have to do it. So great big word, not very complicated. So they're offered in every town in the Commonwealth, and some towns do things a little differently, but they all have to offer the same basic things. So the law gives us the starting points on qualifications and the amount of the credit. So these credits do not have to be paid back. It's just a credit that shows up on your tax bill. And they're based on your individual qualifications, so your personal situation. So some possible categories that you have are if you're legally blind or your spouse is legally blind, if you're a veteran with some kind of service-connected disability, if you're over 65, if you're a widow or a widower, and then we have the CPA Surcharge Exemption. You might have noticed on your tax bill this year, there's a new charge on there called Community Preservation Act Surcharge. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail as we go on. The other thing that we have is a deferral. So this is a temporary release from your obligation. This does have to be paid back. So if you're in a situation where you can't pay your taxes and you want to stay in your home, you can defer all or part of your bill. But it has to be paid back, and in order to protect the town and make sure it does get paid back, they put a lien on your house so that when you either sell it or you pass away and your estate sells it, the town gets their money back. This also accrues interest like every other kind of loan out there. So some general qualifications, these apply to everything. Every single situation that we have. You have to own and occupy the property. So you can't have a vacation home in Shrewsbury but actually live in Grafton and have a house by the lake here that's not your full-time house. So you have to occupy it full-time. Everything that you tell us has to be true on the first day of the fiscal year, which is July 1st. So if you turn 65 on June 30th, then you're good to go. If you turn 65 on July 2nd, you have to wait till the next year. Okay, so July 1st is the big date. All the income information that we ask for is based on the prior calendar year. So I don't know if you all realize that the tax year starts in July. So the tax year we're in right now started last July 1st, 2021. So that means we're looking at your income for 2020. Does that make sense? We're always looking back a little bit. So another general qualification is your application is not open to the public. That means that nobody, your kids, someone in town hall, your neighbor, nobody can come into our office and say, I want to see Mr. Smith's exemption application. We cannot by law show it to them. And I stress that all the time because people are worried about their information. Nobody wants it floating around town hall and anyone willy-nilly can get their hands on where you do your banking and how much money you have and that kind of thing. It's private, it has to be kept private, nobody can look at it except the people in my office and the Board of Assessors that actually votes on it. So I stress that every time. You do have to apply every year. Once you get an exemption, when it's time to reapply next year, we send you the application when it's time to apply, so that you don't have to remember, you won't miss it. We'll send it to you when it's time. So we're going to get into some of the specific ones that we offer. If someone in your household, you or your spouse, is legally blind, you can get a credit of $500 off your taxes. In order to prove that, because you have to prove everything with the government, right? We would either need a certificate from the Commission for the Blind, people that are legally blind register with an organization with the state, or we would need a letter from your doctor that says that you or your spouse was legally blind. Once we get that, we process it, we put the credit right on your tax bill. The next one we're going to look at is the veterans. And where you see the word clause and then a number, that's just where these things show up in the law. So if you ever got your hands on a law book and wanted to read yourself to sleep, you could find it in the law. So there's several categories for veterans, but they all involve a disability or a loss suffered during service. Unfortunately, the Commonwealth, if you went into the service and served your country and got out unscathed, there's nothing we can do for you on your real estate bill right now. So if you are at least 10% disabled, 10% to 99%, anywhere in there, and the VA has certified that, you would get a credit of $400 on your taxes. Included in this is if you've been awarded the Purple Heart. If you have lost a foot, a hand, or an eye, or the use of a foot, a hand, or an eye, the credit is $750. If you've lost both hands, both feet, both eyes, the credit's $1250. All of this information is certified to us by either your doctor or the VA. If you have been deemed 100% disabled and you've had to adapt your house, so this applies if you are in a wheelchair or have mobility issues and have had to put ramps in your house or widen your doorways or something like that, that credit is $1,500. If you are a surviving spouse and the service member died as a result of their service, so this one gets a little so if they died during service, if they're considered missing in action, or if they died as a result of an injury or an illness contracted during the service, which we've seen fairly recently, a lot of Vietnam veterans that were exposed to Agent Orange and developed cancer and then passed away from that cancer, their spouses qualify for this one. That's a full exemption. Your total tax bill is wiped out. And then if you are 100% disabled, but you haven't had to modify your house, that credit's $1,000. And finally, if you're a paraplegic, or if you are 100% disabled due to blindness, we'll exempt 100% of your tax bill. So the first year that you apply for a veterans exemption, we need copies of your service paperwork, so your DD-214, discharge paperwork, things like that. And we keep that on file. So every year you just have to get us the application and any changes from the VA. So if you were at 80% and now you're at 100%, that changes the credit amount, so we would need to know that. So it's just the application and any new stuff from the VA. So the credit amount on this one is $1,000. So if you're over 65, you have limited income and assets, you might qualify for the elderly exemption. The qualifications are pretty strict on this. Shrewsbury for now has stuck with the minimum that's in the law, which means that your income, if you're single, can't be more than $24,911. This is again would be for 2020. If you're married, the income limit this year is $37,367. Your asset limit, and this applies to your cash assets, not your house, not your cars, just the amount of money you have available to you in the bank. If you're single, that's $40,000, and if you're married, it's $55,000. The first year you apply, you have to prove your age, either a copy of your birth certificate or your passport or your driver's license that has your age on it. We'll keep that on file. And then all subsequent years, you have to provide your tax return and your bank statements to verify your assets. If you are a widow or a widower and your income is more than that number that we talked about, 24,000, you might qualify for this one, which was a 17. The credit's much lower, it's $175, but it's the same asset limit. So $40,000 in cash, available to you in the bank, $55,000 if you're married. And the first year of the application, we need again proof of your age and a copy of your spouse's death certificate. And all subsequent years, we need the bank statements again. Okay, the CPA surcharge. You all noticed that new charge on your bill this year? Do you remember what it's for? Okay, so you may have noticed this new charge on your bill. This was voted in by Shrewsbury residents to take effect this year for the first time. So the amount that's being charged, it's just under 1% of your total taxes. So if your total tax is like $5,000, the CPA would probably be about $45. If you come in under the median household income for Shrewsbury, which is set by the federal government, the Housing and Urban Development Department, I guess they are. And it's based on your household size and that median income. So if you come in under that, we can exempt this total surcharge from your bill. So that income changes every year because HUD changes the numbers every year. Right now, if it's a family, a household of 2, your income had to be less than $79,000. So again, it's just the application form every year. Get that in with a copy of your tax return. We exempt it and it shows up on your bill as a credit. So you'll see the household size, and if you're over 60, the income limit for the household. If you're under 60, you can also apply for this, but the income is lower. So a deferral, remember we said, is the one that needs to be paid back. So we can credit up to your full tax bill. If you cannot pay anything on your taxes, we can defer the whole thing. And the deferral means you're paying it back at a later time. So your income would have to be less than $30,000. And again, it has to be paid back when the property is transferred or sold. And to protect the town, they do put a lien on there. The interest rate on this is 8%, which is a little steep. But that's what's set by law. You could also defer if you can only pay, again, if your taxes are $5,000 and you can come up with 3, but you just can't make that last $2,000, you can defer just that amount. And then you can pay it back as you can if you want to, or you can just leave it out there and then have it paid back when you sell the property. So there are a few additional programs that are available in Shrewsbury. The first one is a senior work-off program. I don't know if you know about that. That's managed by the Council on Aging. So they have the paperwork here, and basically you volunteer in a specific department in the town, and instead of getting a paycheck, you get a credit on your tax bill. So these credits, they are considered income by the IRS, so you need to be careful if you're applying for other programs that are income-based, like SMOC, or I'm not sure what else is out there, and they check your income, they're gonna count this credit. So you just need to be careful and make sure you don't shoot yourself in the foot and get one credit and lose another benefit. There's also the circuit breaker tax credit. I don't know if you know about this. This is something you file on your state income taxes. This town does not have anything to do with this one, but I still wanted to make you aware of it. If your income is less than $62,000 if you're single, $93,000 if you're married, and $78,000 if you're a head of household, you're over 65, and the assessed value on your house in Shrewsbury is less than $884,000. You might qualify for this credit, and it's calculated by taking the amount you paid in taxes and half of the amount you paid in water and sewer expenses. And if that's over 10% of your income, you can get this income tax credit, just like a tax refund like you get when you file your taxes. Tax credit for this year is $1,170. And again, that comes from the state. So if you have someone that helps you with your taxes, you might want to have them look into that. Or if you do your own taxes, you need to file this Schedule CB for circuit breaker and you do your income tax. If you rent, you could also apply for it. Your rent has to be 25% of your rent has to be more than 10% of your income. And coming soon, we hope, some things that we're working on for next fiscal year, fiscal 23, we're hoping to change some of the requirements so that more people would qualify. The income and the asset limits, as I said, are really strict and they're really low and they're not very reasonable for a town like Shrewsbury, which tends to be a little more affluent. So town meeting can vote to change the age limit. So instead of being 70 for some things, we can make it 65. We can vote to increase the amount of money you can make, so the income limit. Increase the amount of money you can have in the bank, so the asset limit, instead of being stuck at $44,000 or $50,000, we can bump it up. Because you've worked your whole life and you might have money there, but you're saving it to live the rest of your, it's going to support you for the rest of your life. You don't want to be taking thousands and thousands out every year to pay your taxes. And then we can also vote to increase the amount of the credit. So instead of $1,000 for the 41C elderly exemption, we could go to maybe $1,500 or even $2,000. So those are some things that I'm working on with some of the selectmen to see if we can get that on the warrant for a town meeting and get it approved. It wouldn't take effect until next fiscal year. We are also hoping to start a tax relief fund. The community I worked in before I came to Shrewsbury had such a fund, and it works similarly to the scholarship fund that Shrewsbury already has. You might have noticed when you get your tax bill, there's an option to donate to the scholarship fund. Put a couple extra dollars on your check when you pay your bill, and that goes to a scholarship fund for seniors in Shrewsbury High School. This would be set up in a similar way, except the funds would be given to people who apply for tax relief. The applications would go to a new tax relief fund committee. So we will be able to set our own rules on who would qualify. And our intent is to request donations from other residents, to create partnerships with some nonprofits in town, also with the business community. And the school system is already on board to start maybe doing some fundraisers, and the money would go into this fund. The monies would not have to be paid back, and it would benefit just Shrewsbury residents. So we've already met with the Board of Selectmen and planted this seed with them in hopes to gain approval at town meeting in May so we can get started on it for next fiscal year. And that's it in a nutshell. Our contact information is on the screen. You can email, you can call us. We are open by appointment, so if you wanted to call and come in, we can set an appointment where you could come in and it would just be you and not worrying about a big crowd of people. Do you have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a special form for the open space credit? Is there a special?
Yep, so that's the white form down here. You can take one of those. All of the deadlines for these, you still have time to apply for this year. The deadline is April 1st. So you've got a little bit of time to get your stuff together and get it into us at Town Hall. Everything also does need to be voted by the Board of Assessors. So we collect all your information. We have someone that goes over everything and make sure we didn't miss something or you didn't give us the wrong year of taxes or something like that. Make sure everything's in order. And then it does go to the Board of Assessors and we vote on it. You get something in the mail saying what happened, what they decided, and then on your next tax bill you'll see the amount as a credit. Thank you very much.